So you're gonna tell them how long we're going,
Yeah,
time and all that?
we're I think we may have a little height disparity here, but so when you come up here, just adjust it so you can be heard. Out here, it's not going to work, so this will be better. But I'm Jim Inkster. I'm the president of the Press Club. We thank you for coming again. I see many faces, familiar people who were here last week, and it's an important event. And before we get to the particulars with the 3 candidates who have opted to be here, 5 candidates were invited. Here's a message from Jeff Keeney, who is the director of the Botanical Gardens here and has been our gracious host for the last 2 weeks. And it's a little warm, not bad, but it's a beautiful environment and perfect for the COVID age that we're in. Jeff?
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I'd just like to welcome everyone to Burden Museum and Gardens. We're part of the LSU system. Many of you all know the place, but for those of you who don't, Burden Museum and Gardens is an umbrella for the LSU Rural Life Museum, the LSU Ag Center Botanic Gardens, and Windrush Gardens. So we welcome you today, and thank you for coming.
And good afternoon again. The election is 22 days away, so we are at crunch time. It is an important race. We only have two U.S. Senate seats in Louisiana, and it's a 6-year term, and 5 candidates were invited, including the incumbent, Bill Cassidy, who opted not to come, saying that he would only appear if all 15 candidates in the race were invited. That was his stated reason for not being here. And I hear some laughter, and perhaps for good reason. But Bill Cassidy is seeking a second term. He won the last time with 56% of the votes. He's a Republican in a state where there's only one statewide elected Democrat. The other candidate who was invited is the Libertarian candidate, a Hammond neurosurgeon, Aaron Sigler, but he is in Delaware, and he was unavailable to be here. The 3 candidates who accepted are Democrats, Mayor Adrian Perkins of Shreveport, who was born in 1986. He's a young man who has been elected to a high position, and of course we know his backstory for those of us who've covered this race. And as you come to the podium and make your opening statements, I think it would be better for you to tell us a bit about where you went to school and how you got to this point right now. Next up is Antoine Pierce, a Baton Rouge businessman. Born in 1981. He has been running for more than a year. He was out in front, the first candidate to challenge Bill Cassidy, and he has stayed in the race and is running a viable campaign, and that's why he was invited. And I see he has some supporters who have come here, and we thank you. And next up is Peter Winstrop, born in 1985, and he is a New Orleans educator, also an Ivy League graduate, and I'm sure you'll hear a bit about that when he comes to the podium. As mentioned, Senator Cassidy is not here. I just checked my Google map. He lives 5.9 miles from here, so if you're within earshot, Senator Cassidy, we'd love to have you join us. Better late than never, but I don't think he's going to be here. And let's start with that. And by the way, we will have some other members of the press club and the media who are asking questions, not just yours truly. But Senator Cassidy, of course, has not debated any of his challengers in this race, and we're 3 weeks away, and he opted not to be here. And your thoughts about why he chose not to be here. After you make your opening statement, and we'll go one by one, if you would answer that question, we'll go 1 minute on your opening statement and 1 minute on the dynamics of this and the importance of the major players in this race being here. Let's start with you, Mayor Adrian Perkins. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Inkster, and thank you to the Baton Rouge Press Club for having us today. Thank you for all the citizens that have come out to be educated voters this November. I'm Mayor Adrian Perkins of Shreveport, Louisiana. I was born and raised in Shreveport, Louisiana by a single mother. She raised me and my 2 older brothers. When 9/11 happened, I decided to accept my nomination at West Point and attend West Point. I was my class president there. I graduated, and soon after found myself in Iraq. I did 2 tours in Afghanistan after that, over an 8-year career that culminated with company command in the 101st Airborne. I transitioned from the military and I attended Harvard Law School. And after I graduated from Harvard Law School, I bypassed all the offers to go and work in these fancy cities for these fancy corporate law firms to bring my energy back home and serve my community. And serving my community as mayor for just 2 years now, it is one of the greatest honors that I've had in my entire life. But this year, in working as hard as I can, I recognize the damage that COVID-19 was doing on not just Shreveport, but communities around the state. And I recognize it as a failure in Washington, D.C. to be there for us when we needed them most. So I decided, through a lot of prayer, how can I continue to protect my community, similar to what I did by joining the military. And I landed on running for the United States Senate so that we can have a strong candidate to challenge Senator Bill Cassidy. Now, my opinions about whether or why Senator Cassidy is not here today are pretty simple. I think that he is afraid of us. I think that he is afraid and he's ashamed of his record thus far. One of the first things that he did when he was elected to the United States Senate was try to pass the Graham-Cassidy bill that would have stripped away health care from 500,000 Louisianians. It would have jeopardized health care from nearly 1 million Louisianians with pre-existing conditions, and to this day, he continues to try to strip away our health care. There's a famous quote by Maya Angelou that says, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them the first time. He has told us who he is. If we give him another 6 years in office, he will continue to come after our health care. He will continue to cozy up to the corporations that have paid him over $6 million today. One thing that I'm extremely proud of is to date, we've raised $1.7 million in the Perkins campaign with over 50,000 contributions. Over 50,000 contributions. That's more contributions than Senator Cassidy has got in this entire cycle since 2015. That should let you know that we're connected to the people, and we're going to continue to fight for the people as we challenge Senator Cassidy and we get him out of Washington, D.C. Thank you.
And next up is Baton Rouge businessman Antoine Pierce.
Thank you to the Baton Rouge Press Club for inviting me to this event, and thank you for being interested in what's happening in our city and in our state and what's happening across the country. My name is Antoine Pearson. I'm running for United States Senate. I was born and raised here in Baton Rouge. I am one of 7 children, proud middle child. I graduated from Winstrom High School, and then twice from what I like to call Harvard South, Louisiana State University, once with a Bachelor of Science, and then again with a Master of Public Administration with a concentration in public policy. I started my career in the grassroots, doing community organizing, on the ground, talking to voters, talking to people in their neighborhoods about the issues that are affecting them and affecting their lives. Holy moly, that was a quick 30 seconds. So I wanted to get in this race because, like so many, we recognize that the government is not speaking to the needs of the working poor and the middle class. Most people don't see a government that's representative of their values. So I got in this race to be a voice for those people that have gone unheard. We're not voiceless, we're unheard, which speaks to the issue of Bill Cassidy not being here. His absence speaks to the cowardice that has permeated his entire time in office. As a matter of fact, challenge yourself. When is the last time you saw him hold a public town hall? Forget about COVID. We probably haven't seen him for 2 or 3 years. This speaks to the blatant cowardice. He does not have a record to run on other than a negative one. He cannot speak to legislative policies that he's passed for this state that have been beneficial to the vast majority of his constituents. That's why we're here. That's why there are 15 people in this race. It speaks to how terrible he's been as a leader. So I'm running for United States Senate, and I'm asking you for your support. Vote for the grassroots. Every single dollar we've raised has come from voters like you. And that's who we're fighting for. Thank you.
1 minute for Cassidy.
He just talked about that. So Peter Winstrop is next. He'll be our third and final candidate today. He is a New Orleans teacher, and he is here to talk about his past and his thoughts about the incumbent not being present.
Not gonna come up. thank you. Thank you to the Press Club for being here. Thank you to all the citizens. As we mentioned, my name is Peter Winstrop. Take off the mask. I'm a proud husband. I'm a father to Hope and Grace. I'm a lifelong school teacher, a baseball coach. I'm proud of the afternoons spent tutoring, the Saturdays spent at practice, bringing my young children to be part of a school community and building community through our schools. And so many people across Louisiana understand that when we have problems in Washington, when we have people who fight each other, who can't agree, that working together, that building off of one another is something that our schools do best. And that's what we're building on. And education is at the foundation of every problem facing Louisiana, from starting small businesses to attracting large ones, to reducing crime, providing opportunities for our children, to better health care. But this campaign is not just about education, it's about empowering people. Earlier in my career, I learned the difference between serving your community and empowering. We have too many politicians who say they will serve, say they will do things for us. But the people of Louisiana don't want things done for them. We want power to make agency, to make actions and change in our own lives. And that's part of why I'm here and part of why Senator Cassidy is not. His power comes from Washington. His power comes from Wall Street. We saw him spend campaign funds on a private club in New York. He can make time for that. He cannot make time for being here. He's also afraid of his record. Last time we had an economic recession, last time our families were worried about our schools and our jobs, he voted against legislation. He tried to cut 2,000 jobs from this state, teaching jobs from this state. He tried to defund our police, voted against $300 million to support community policing. When push comes to shove, when our communities are in need, he serves Wall Street, he serves Washington. We do not need another long-term incumbent politician to take our power to Washington and keep it for themselves. We need somebody who has been in the community, not serving, but empowering people. We need somebody who will go to Washington and bring programs that give decisions and resources for our communities and families to face these troubling times. Thank you.
And when we go to this round of questions, we'll start with Mr. Perkins, excuse me, Mr. Pierce, and then Winstrop and Perkins. Tyler Bridges of The Advocate will ask the next question, and he has the floor. He's got to get rid of his laptop, or actually he's bringing it with him. So Tyler, your question.
Thanks, Jim. Candidates, the incumbent today launched a TV ad, and he's talking about the benefits of I believe how he's cut taxes. I assume he's referring to the 2017 tax cut. So I wondered whether each of you think it was a good measure, a good plan to cut taxes as Congress and the President did in 2017.
One of the first initiatives that I would approach in office is to repeal the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It has been one of the most egregious policies as it pertains to the working poor and the middle class. We saw over 80% of that policy go to the top 1%. We saw the working poor and the middle class tax cuts be made temporary, while tax cuts for the billionaires and millionaires be made permanent. This is not a piece of policy that's made for everyday working Americans, when 99% of the wealth is concentrated at the top 1% and everyone else is struggling, working job to job. To have someone to be so out of touch, so tone deaf as to go and to brag about a policy this egregious speaks volumes to why he isn't here. He is defending the indefensible. So we need people that are knowledgeable in policy, that are going to Congress, going to the United States Senate to work for the people. We matter. Our voices matter. We pay their salaries. We pay for their health care. It's time for us to be represented the way we should be.
In my neighborhood, we have an ethos that those folks who make it, those folks who have the means, give back to the next generation. It's part of why I became a teacher. And right now, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act did the opposite of that. In 2018, the year after it was passed, 91 Fortune 500 companies paid zero or negative federal income tax, right? And then we have millionaires and billionaires paying $750 in tax. Meanwhile, Senator Cassidy is voting to defund the tax police who make sure that our wealthy pay their fair share. We are proud of the success and of the innovation of those people who have led us in business, but it is also their obligation to lay the foundation through education, through infrastructure, rural broadband, drainage pipes, and roads. Lay the infrastructure, lay the foundation for the next group of innovators who will carry us into the 21st century and make us leaders in business and enterprise then as well.
I think my colleagues here have well documented that those tax cuts that he's bragging about on TV are for primarily the wealthy amongst us, the millionaires and the billionaires, not for the common everyday person that exists in our communities. In my city of Shreveport, Louisiana, the average salary is $38,000. His tax cut did absolutely nothing for the majority of my city, and that's who I fight for. When we hear words like the working poor, I think back to my mother who had to work 2 jobs to raise me and my 2 older brothers, and we still did not have enough food at the house to where often at night she would sneak away from the table so that my brothers and I could eat what food was available. Those are the people that somebody from Louisiana that's representing Louisiana should be on TV bragging about fighting for in Washington, D.C. And honestly, this is consistent with the messaging that we've seen in his commercials, where he's talked about defending veterans. Yet he was quiet when the U.S. Postal Service was being undermined that provides medicine to 75% of the VA, as the VA puts out 75% of their medication. So I think it's unfortunate, and I think that he shouldn't be running commercials like that that's misleading the people of Louisiana. Thank you.
You'll be first, Peter. Senator Cassidy 6 years ago won the election with 56% of the votes in a runoff against Senator Landrieu, and his mantra in 2014 was that Senator Landrieu had voted with then President Obama 97% of the time. He ran spots all over the state many times over stating this, and in his 6 years, with 4 of those being under President Trump, he's voted with President Trump more than 90% of the time. He has not criticized the president on his handling of the coronavirus or any other substantial matter. He voted against the articles of impeachment that were passed by the House of Representatives. Now, he is backing a president who received 58% of the votes in Louisiana 4 years ago and got more votes than any candidate in the history of our state. But do you view his support for the president a plus or a minus? Peter Winstrop.
When I was talking to voters in West Wego and Jefferson Parish yesterday, the issue that came up is a lack of trust, a broken trust in our political system. Folks believe that the game is rigged, that politicians are out for themselves, are out for their own career, are out to cut deals with city insurance agencies to make sure their friends get paid. They're out to make sure that their money comes in and they can fight for their next election. And so people in Louisiana want Senator Cassidy to do things like fight for our oil and gas revenue. We receive 37.5%. Most states receive 50%. Senator Cassidy knows as a physician that we need more testing in our state, but he refuses to fight and stand up to our president when he needs to protect lives. We have 1,000 folks a day dying in this country. We have friends and relatives who are mourning. We have people in my community who are in mourning. And we need somebody whose obligations lie to the people of this state, not to major political parties, not to donors, not to Washington and Wall Street. Thank you.
I've talked about my military service already, but I served alongside Republicans and Democrats. I know that Republicans and Democrats all have something to offer this country when they work in good faith. Whether or not you're voting for a president that's a Democrat or a Republican, the only thing that I ask and that most Louisianians ask is that you do it in the interest of Louisianians. So in talking about Mary Landrieu, she voted for the Affordable Care Act. The Governor John Bel Edwards eventually came in and expanded Medicaid to cover 500,000 Louisianans. That's in the interest of Louisianans. But what we've seen from Senator Cassidy is a consistent record to vote along party lines, to vote along corporate interests, and completely against us. And I think we're going to continue to see that, and it's even more of a reason why we cannot afford to give him another 6 years in the Senate. He's told us who we are. We need to believe him. Thank you.
Senator Bill Cassidy has failed our state, plain and simple. He voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. He voted to cut funding to education. He voted against raising the minimum wage. He voted against college relief debt. He has failed the people of Louisiana time and time again. He has voted lockstep with Donald Trump on the most egregious things and been silent when he should have spoken up. If we cannot depend on Senator Cassidy to stand up to Donald Trump when it's necessary, then how can we rely on him to stand up for us? He won't. He's shown us he won't. He's been silent on the things that Donald Trump has said that have been racist, bigoted, homophobic, xenophobic. He has said nothing in response. As a matter of fact, when he was approached by one of the reporters, he said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." It is absolutely astounding that anyone would still support this man, considering how egregious his behavior has been. And I was talking about Bill Cassidy. But that speaks volumes that you thought I was talking about Donald Trump, didn't you? And he's been silent on Donald Trump. It's time for Louisiana to choose somebody that's going to speak for you, that's going to stand up to you, to their party and other parties and anyone else that's going to stand in the way of progress in this state. Thank you.
Senator Cassidy was a Democrat himself until his late 40s. He entered politics around 2006 and became a Republican and hasn't lost a race. For each of you gentlemen, how long have you been a Democrat, and would you entertain switching parties?
I've been a Democrat since I was a registered voter at the age of 18, and I understand as people evolve, but what we've seen from Senator Cassidy is not just a natural evolution. We've seen him do what's politically expedient. What Mr. Inkster didn't mention is that he lost a political race, and that's what pushed him to run on the Republican ticket, because he just wanted the power. And we have seen what he has done with the power of being an elected official, and it's not for us. Again, it's for corporations. Maybe it's for his ego if he just wants to have a seat and not actually serve the people once he's in that seat. So I am a proud Democrat. I am running on a Democratic ticket, and I promise you I will remain consistent even if my views did have to evolve. I promise that I will continue to fight for you. Thank you.
To answer your question, no, I will not switch parties. I think it's astounding that you have to, or you believe you have to switch parties to be successful in this state in the first place. Louisiana is not a red state. We're a low voter turnout state. So many people are disaffected and disengaged because they don't see a government that's working for them. So many people have come and made promises about what they will do and what they won't do, and as soon as they got elected, they reneged. Well, I'm running because I'm tired of being lied to as well. I'm tired of being sold snake oil as well. So I'm running, and I said this, and I'll say this quite publicly. I'll gladly be a one-term senator if it means betraying my community. If it means turning on my values and turning on my principles. I'll sit at home with my feet up, a Mai Tai, and a smile on my face, because I know that I'm going in to do the right thing. I know I'm going in to stand up for the people. I refuse to betray my own values and principles, and I certainly refuse to vote for a party that has voted against civil rights, voted against social justice, voted against health care, voted down educational reform, voted against police reform. I refuse to be a part of that. So I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for the people of Louisiana, and I'm asking you to support me in this. Thank you.
Mr. Pierce, when did you become a Democrat?
I'm a lifelong Democrat and proud of it.
Well, when did you register as a Democrat?
I think my 18th birthday, 17th, 18th birthday, whenever I registered to vote. Yes, lifelong, as long as I can vote. And I've been voting in Louisiana since I was 18 years old, by the way. So yeah, and I'm the elder statesman up here. So.
beat you by just a little bit. I registered as a Democrat when I was 17 and a half to vote in the presidential primary. And I've been a Democrat since then. But I would say first is that I'm an American, and I want what's best for this country. And I actually believe that we could slim down our federal government and have policies to do that. I take a market-based solution over a government solution 10 times out of 10. I think we need local and state control. I fought for control of my curriculum in my classroom, right? I teach personal responsibility every day in my classroom. But what I would tell people who share conservative values is that the income inequality in our country right now makes it impossible to hold those values and find solutions for people. We have the highest top 1% of income share in the since right before the Great Depression, right? And so I was filling out a questionnaire the other day for a housing program that took 0.42% of a budget from this federal program to this federal program, and then used it to make states fill out paperwork so that people could get housing. You know what's a lot simpler than that? A $15 minimum wage so folks are empowered to make their own decisions about housing. We have principles and values we share, and we need to face the income inequality that makes them untenable in today's climate.
One last political question. Senator Cassidy has stated that he voted for Eddie Rispone for governor. He attended 3 rallies with President Trump to try to defeat John Bel Edwards in last year's gubernatorial election. For whom did you vote for governor and why?
Well, this one should be a no-brainer. I voted for Governor John Bel Edwards for sure. I think any person in politics supporting Eddie Rispone was about winning Eddie Rispone's money, as opposed to supporting someone who had the credentials and the knowledge and the know-how to run this state. Eddie Rispone, I don't know if any of you saw the debate, but they were an epic disaster on his behalf because he could not articulate a single piece of legislative policy that was meaningful to our state or even meaningful to his campaign. How could I support someone who dodged forums, who would not speak, who could not defend his legislative know-how, who had no policies that he could articulate? Of course I'm supporting John Bel Edwards. Of course I support his second term because I saw what he did in his first term. And I thought what he did was bring our state out of a recession. He expanded Medicaid. He fought for a lot of the issues that matter to people in my community. There's no way I was not going to vote for him, especially for someone like Eddie Rispone.
Yes, I voted for John Bel Edwards in 2015. And I admire that he has stayed steadfast on issues that matter to folks in Louisiana. A lot of people I know are worried about upcoming budget cuts, what that will mean for my friends and family who are in education, knowing that Cassidy voted to oppose relief for states in 2010 and looks to do the same today. So John Bel Edwards increased teacher salaries to make it more competitive to retain teachers in the classroom. And then also we are in the middle of a healthcare crisis. It must be said that he expanded Medicaid to cover 500,000 Louisianans. And those folks are my neighbors. Those folks are my students and their families and people who rely on that so that they can use that health to get the best education they can, to start a business, to have a say in their future and creating something of value for our state to share with their community. Thank you.
I voted for Governor John Bel Edwards as well. He and I not only share an alma mater, but when I was at law school, my first summer, I actually came back to Louisiana to work with the governor on criminal justice reform. I got to see him on a daily basis and the way that he operated around the office, the decency, the competence in which he operated around the office, and how he fought for the people of Louisiana every single day, and he was an inspiration to me. And he remains as such to this day. So I was happy to cast my ballot. And what it says about Senator Cassidy supporting Eddie Rispone is this. I've been the mayor of Shreveport just under 2 years now, and Senator Cassidy has visited the 3rd largest city in the state 3 times. One of which he visited for a campaign rally to encourage people to vote for Eddie Rispone. It shows you that, again, he is more interested in scoring political points than he is in scoring points for you and I. Again, his character has been on display each and every day of his tenure in the Senate, and he's not fighting for us. Thank you.
John Hightower will be next, but before we get to his question, today hearings began with the Senate Judiciary Committee, of which Junior Senator John Kennedy is a member, about the ability of Amy Coney Barrett to be a Supreme Court Justice. She has been nominated by the President. She is a native of New Orleans, a very conservative jurist, but one who apparently has the support of the Senate to be confirmed. Would you vote as a senator for her, against her, and do you think it's appropriate that this vote be taking place now with 3 weeks to go before an election? Peter's first. Peter's first.
Okay. In the career of Senator Cassidy, we've seen the influence of money on politics and the money that influences politicians to make the decisions they have to be places and to choose not to be places like here today and to answer their constituents. So I feel like when I talk to folks who say I can't trust another politician, when I talk to folks who say the system is rigged, what they want to know is, are we going to reform the system so that the government works for the people? So I would look very closely at the record on Citizens versus United. Do we believe that corporations are people that corporations can funnel without accountability millions and millions of dollars into our elections? I'm focused on that. I'm focused on our ability to overturn Janus, to make sure that unions have an ability to fight for their workers and to advocate and empower the people who are doing the work that powers Louisiana.
What about Amy Coney Barrett, for or against her?
I would get against her based on those two issues.
I'm going to be honest, and this might not get at the direct question, but honestly, I'm not thinking about a Supreme Court justice appointment right now because I'm thinking about the 400,000 Louisianans that have applied for unemployment benefits. It is shameful that the Senate has had a bill from the House for 150 days, and yet they're trying to cram a Supreme Court justice through in just over 20 days. Who are they listening to? Are they fighting on behalf of the American people? If I'm in the Senate, I am talking and pushing the fact that we need to get relief to our working class families like yesterday. Again, I come from a household where I know the anxiety that they're carrying with them each and every day. And if the Senate had any kind of connection to them whatsoever, any responsibility to the people of Louisiana, then they would be focused on getting them relief yesterday rather than trying to shove this Supreme Court appointment through. Thank you.
Should the vote take place?
Should the vote take place? I think that the vote should be taking place on relief, not about a Supreme Court justice appointment right now.
I think as U.S. Senators, we must be able to walk and chew gum. So with that being said, I think we can talk about both of those issues simultaneously. No, we should not be taking this vote on the Supreme Court justice. And I say that because the Republicans agree with me in 2016. They agreed that we shouldn't be having this vote and the people should decide. We're less than 24 days away from this election. We should not be deciding on a Supreme Court justice, but we should, again, as Mayor Perkins said, be talking about COVID relief. We should be talking about the moratorium on evictions and the hundreds of thousands of people in Louisiana and the millions across the country who are going without right now, who have no idea how they're going to put food on their tables. Who have no idea how they're going to get their next job. That's who we need to be talking about, but absolutely not. We shouldn't be holding this meeting. We know they're going to renege. We know they're hypocrites. They wear their hypocrisy like a badge of honor. We should be going against this and using every option we have to stop this vote and allow the people of the United States to make this decision. Thank you.
John Hightower has a question, and we will start with Mayor Perkins.
Thank you, Jim. I wanted to ask a question about a national issue, although bills are going through our state legislature right now that would limit appropriations apparently to municipalities that would advocate defunding the police. So I wonder what your philosophy is, your stand on that concept.
I'm the mayor of a city, and I am not about defunding the police. I work alongside our first responders every single day. As a matter of fact, I spent about 6 hours having sensing sessions just this week with my police and firemen to make sure that they could go out and do their jobs effectively. They keep our community safe. Now, the conversation about defunding the police came about this year as we looked at issues of racial justice to include police brutality. And we can very much get after those issues, and I'm very much about police reform, and that's what we've done in Shreveport. And we can get after police reform to make our police department stronger, to make our first responders more effective in their jobs every single day. But when it comes to defunding the police, we need to make sure that we are looking at our budgets and making sure they are a true representation of our values. And that's what I do every single year as mayor when we're looking at our budget. If there's an opportunity to invest in education or housing to make my community safe, we're going to do that, because that in turn makes our streets safer for our first responders. And that's how we're going to proceed every single year, and that's how I proceed as your next U.S. Senator. Thank you.
Well, first we have to qualify what defunding the police is, because we've heard it be used across the aisle as, cutting off police funding, and that's not what it is. Most police departments are overfunded in almost every local government. We can utilize those funds to actually do what decreases crime in local municipalities. We can make investment in mental health services. We can make investment in education. We can make investment in social services and those things that we know in the school to prison pipeline. So if that's what defunding the police is, then I'm all for it. No, I don't want to see police departments ripped apart. That's ridiculous. It's asinine. But I do support a plan that puts the funding where it belongs, not in over-policing, particularly African-American communities. That has been a problem in our society for far too long. What we need to do is put that money exactly where it can go to make sure that the police are not over-policing our communities, that people are being treated fairly, making sure that they get the training that they need, the crisis training that they need, making sure that there are people there that understand mental health issues and those sorts of things. Oh, and by the way, as far as what the state legislature is doing, what in the government overreach is that? So I thought that Republicans were about smaller government. How can you be about smaller government when you're trying to tell local municipalities what they should be doing with their money? It's absolutely ridiculous, and they should stay out of it and let local municipalities decide how to best police their communities.
First of all, as I noted earlier, the one person in this race with a record of attempting to defund the police is Bill Cassidy. 2011, he voted to cut $300 million from a community policing program that would have taken away 2,000 police jobs in the state. But we have to turn off the news, because politicians and media, they've been talking this whole time. It's folks like teachers, nurses, small business owners, essential workers who have been finding solutions every day. We don't have a choice. So I'm here to offer some solutions. Folks in my neighborhood, they're worried about crime. They're also worried about disrespectful, ineffective, or unaccountable police. I have a proposal that would double police pay in Louisiana. Small business people know that if you want a job done well, you pay somebody a salary to do it, and if they don't do the job, you let them go. The exchange for the salary increase is you work at will like the rest of us. If I don't do my job, if I'm rude, I don't have a job. In addition, we must have local control to allow cities who are accountable to the people to decide if they want mental health workers or addiction specialists responding to those 911 calls. Yesterday, while campaigning, I ran across a domestic dispute, a woman with a knife. She asked me, "Can you call the police?" But when I started, she said, "No, I just want you to fake it." She was in crisis. She did not trust the police. We need to allow cities to send a mental health worker, a conflict resolution specialist, to support people in crisis.
This will be the final question before the candidates question one another. But Senator Cassidy has repeatedly voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Was that a good vote or not a good vote? Mayor Perkins.
I think that was a horrible vote for Senator Cassidy to try to repeal the Affordable Care Act. But I don't think that tells the full story either. Even after the repeal the Affordable Care Act vote with the Graham-Cassidy bill as a proposal, he's continued to have an assault on the Affordable Care Act. We've seen the individual mandate taken away. We've seen litigation headed towards the Supreme Court right now that will allow insurance companies to not grant insurance to anyone with a pre-existing condition. There's nearly 25% of our population here in Louisiana. So he's continued to go after health care. And he is a medical doctor. What happened to his Hippocratic oath? The oath not to do harm. Yet he is doing that every single day in office. We cannot afford to give him another 6 years to try to strip away our health care. Thank you.
Repealing the Affordable Care Act was a horrendous decision. It was made out of political expedience, and it shows. We were looking in Louisiana, ripping millions of people, 20+ million people off of their health care nationwide. This is coming from someone who's getting the best health care our tax dollars can afford. President Trump went to Walter Reed Medical Center because he has COVID-19. I said he has COVID-19. He went to Walter Reed and got the best health care our tax dollars can afford. These people are voting to repeal your health care. They say, you're not good enough. You're not as good as us. He was going to cut 500,000 people off their Medicaid. And not only that, the skinny repeal and the Graham-Cassidy bill was so terrible that even his Republican colleagues, they wouldn't even get out of the committee. They knew how egregious it was. They knew how horrible these policies were. They couldn't even go and look at their own constituents in the eye and tell them that they're ripping them off their health care. This is the person who we have representing us in the United States Senate. We should be so proud. We have a chance to do something else, and this is the time to do it. I'm asking for your support. My name is Antoine Pierce. Please vote for me. Thank you.
I haven't had a chance to talk tonight about this afternoon about my wife. My wife is an incredible supporter. She is the head of special education at our school. She's incredible strength and patience that she gives to me and our children, and also to the people at our school. She's also a type 1 diabetic, which means had the Graham-Cassidy bill passed, insurers would have been allowed to prevent her from receiving health care. These are our neighbors. These are our families. These are people around us. And I'm not sure why Cassidy, well, I am sure. It's because he has a job to do for his Washington and Wall Street supporters. He's trying to take care from people around us. And cutting Medicaid expansion would have been ruinous for people in our community as well. So that's why this November I'm asking you to join John McCain and myself in giving a thumbs down to Bill Cassidy.
All right, in the next 2 rounds, the candidates will be asking each other questions, but please come to the podium. And since you started this round, why don't we start with Antoine Pierce. You ask Peter, Peter will ask the mayor, and then the mayor will ask you a question. And in the second round, you go 2 over. So, Antoine?
I really don't want to ask you anything. No, I'm just playing. You got in this race May of this year. I was in this race since August of 2019. There were several other candidates that had announced that they were getting in this race. We're at the height of social injustice in this country. There are two African Americans in this race that have made it clear that they're fighting for issues. We saw George Floyd die. We know about the death of Breonna Taylor. We know about several other people in this country that have died egregiously at the hands of police, mostly African American. You're in this race against 2 people that themselves are African Americans. How do you believe that your voice in the U.S. Senate would be heard over people who have this lived experience in our state?
Thank you. As I mentioned before, I'm incredibly proud of my record in the community, teaching public schools, going to work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then finishing work later. And look, it's a fair question because parents that I have encountered in my career have asked the same question at the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, they're able to see through my actions, through the values, through our shared values of courage, of creativity, of responsibility, that I value Black lives. And this candidacy is about, as I said in the beginning, empowering folks. So how will I represent people of color? Well, by empowering the voices, the strong voices that are already in our community to speak up and to have agency in making decisions to make the change that they want to see in their life. Yes. Mayor Perkins, a few people on my staff who were on John Bell Edwards' 2015 campaign tell stories about how they had to fight to keep President Obama and Nancy Pelosi out of the state, knowing that in Louisiana, you can't win by nationalizing politics. You have to localize it. You have to talk about kitchen table issues. So do you think it's possible as a Democrat to win in the state of Louisiana with national politicians such as Elizabeth Warren backing you?
Thank you for the question, Peter. I do think it's possible, and the reason being is that I am the mayor of a city here in Louisiana. All of my politics are local. Everything that I do, whether I'm talking about public safety in my community, and I get to make the neighborhood that I grew up in safer, whether I'm talking about economic development so I can ensure that the single mothers that are out there have an opportunity to work and make a good paying job, make a good wage for the children that they're taking care of, or whether or not I'm talking about technology and looking at how in Shreveport we've expanded the technology sector when it comes to jobs and other sectors throughout the community as well. I work every single day at the local level. With this campaign, I've been running a city and I've been running around this state with every other free hour that I have and getting to know each and every person around the state that I can possibly touch in a very COVID-19 safe way. So yes, we do have local support by Liz Warren and also President Obama, as you pointed out, from national support, but we also have people that are pushing this campaign. Those 50,000 contributions earlier I talked about are from everyday people. The average contribution is $40. That's what's pushing this campaign forward, and I think that's what's going to make us successful. My question to Mr. Pierce is this, and I'll kind of give you some context in it. We have differences up here, but our differences pale in comparison to our senator that sat at home and refused to come and hold himself accountable. So I want to give my colleagues an opportunity to talk about the good things in their community. So Mr. Pierce, I understand you run a nonprofit. Do you care to tell some of the good things that your nonprofit does in the Baton Rouge area?
Well, that was kind of you. Yes, the nonprofit, and of course I'm focusing full time on my campaign now, but the nonprofit I started in 2015 partnered with local community organizations to bring the arts. One thing that a lot of people don't know about me, because I talk so much about politics, is I'm also passionate about the arts. I'm a trained classical actor. I worked at every community theater here in Baton Rouge. Some of them I performed at several shows. I've also acted professionally on TV. You might have seen me on the role in NCIS New Orleans. So I'm passionate about several things, but my nonprofit brings the arts to local community. We worked at Winstrom High School, my alma mater. We worked with some of the students there. We worked in Gardier with some of the students there, bringing a program so they can perform for the local community. So I'm very, very proud of the work. And guess what? We did it for free. We didn't raise any money to do this. I did it on my own dime. So a lot of the work, we also organized some of the protests in the area as far as keeping guns out of the schools and those sorts of things. So I'm very, very proud about the work that we've done in this field. Oh, okay. So my question for you is, this year, Mike Bloomberg got into the presidential election. He spent about $500 million on his presidential campaign, but he said and done some things that are quite questionable. For example, when asked why he policed the black community the way he did, why he put the police in the black community, he said that's because that's where all the crime is. He told a pregnant woman to kill her unborn baby because he didn't want women going on maternity leave on his staff. He referred to a transgender person as it. But you endorsed him. Why did you think Mike Bloomberg was a better candidate for president than Joe Biden?
The things that you've pointed out from Mayor Mike Bloomberg are indefensible, and never did I try to defend those actions. The reason why I supported Mayor Mike Bloomberg is because I looked at what he had done for cities. We've talked about empowering cities, and what Mayor Mike Bloomberg did was bring down gun violence in cities. So that public safety piece that's extremely near and dear to my heart because of my lived experiences, I saw the action that he took, not only as mayor, but even after he was mayor as a philanthropist. He talked about making our environment cleaner. That's something else that I hold near and dear to my heart. So the negative parts about a candidate, each and every one of them have it. And like I said, there's no way that I could defend those things about Mike Bloomberg. Never did I try. But I watched the actions of Mike Bloomberg and I said, hey, what kind of president can he be? Would he make amends for the actions that he had made in the past? And he had a plan for that. So I definitely stood up for Mayor Mike Bloomberg. But now we have Joe Biden, that's the Democratic nominee, and I'm standing up 100% behind Joe Biden as well, because I think our country needs decency and unity right now. So question for Mr. Winstrop. Peter, you teach in a classroom, and you said education is at the basis of all of our problems. You've heard me reference this on the trail now, but a lot of our students, when they get to the classroom, they're hungry, or they're facing or remembering a traumatic experience that happened the night before, and education is one of the last things on their mind. How can we have a holistic approach to get to those students so that all of our community can thrive, and not just the ones born in area codes where we see them traditionally be successful?
Thank you for that question. Having spent 12 years in public education, I'm familiar with the sight of Kayla with her head down in the morning because she had to work until midnight and then take the bus home and not be able to focus on her work. I'm familiar with Corey coming to school knowing that he might not have had a place to sleep last night. So you are 100% correct that we need to provide wraparound support. And that is, first of all, that is one reason why I'm proud to be one of the two candidates up here today who supports a $15 minimum wage that would allow folks to make sure they have housing, which would allow folks to make sure that they could put food on the table. But in addition to that, I support policies to expand school clinics in this state so that young people can get the medical care they need to be in a place to learn, to increase Medicaid reimbursement rates so people don't have to go past 3 doctor's offices that don't accept Medicaid in order to get the health they need. You're 100% right. I think all 3 of us stand for making sure that our young people in and out of school have better opportunities. Healthcare is an enormous issue and in this election. And part of being an elected representative is finding a way to unify everyone in this state behind policies that everyone can support and feel comfortable with. Medicaid for All does not poll very well. It's clear that a lot of people are very uncomfortable about it. What do you say to folks who are concerned and worried about Medicare for All and don't think they can support a candidate who supports that?
Well, I think, first of all, there are a lot of issues that people are uncomfortable with, but we consistently vote for candidates that vote against our interests. Of course, I support a universal health care policy. Of course, I support strengthening the ACA as well. But I think as a country, we can take it a step farther and make sure that no person in this country goes without health care regardless of their ability to pay. And that's why I stand where I stand. We see even now with the ACA in place, 30+ million people who are either uninsured or underinsured. It doesn't go far enough. And it's being challenged in the Supreme Court as we speak. So I think we can take it a step further. Not only that, we can make sure that every person with pre-existing conditions are covered. We can make sure that people don't go bankrupt or die because they cannot afford their prescription medication, which we've seen in this country. A bottle of insulin here is $600. You can go to Mexico and pay $40 for it. This is unthinkable in the richest country on the planet. That's why I support universal health care. That's why I support a plan that makes sure that every single person is covered. So if that makes you uncomfortable, then join this and find out what happens for you. I hope we can make you comfortable in knowing that I'm fighting for your health care and not seeking to rip it away like Bill Cassidy. I'm fighting to make sure that your children and your family, even at the height of COVID, have health care coverage. We know how much it costs. I see you. We know how much it costs, and I want to make sure that those costs don't burden you to have to make a decision between paying for your bills and covering your health care. Thank you.
And in our final round, we'll go in reverse order, starting with Peter Winstrop, then Antoine Pierce, and Adrian Perkins. Peter?
In conclusion, thank you everybody for being here. It's been an absolute privilege to be able to address the voters of Louisiana in a time where it is so difficult to find solutions and to find a path forward, when it seems like we are too far divided to come together. And so that's why I would remind you that when we are divided, when we are fighting each other, remember that somebody has a financial or a political interest in division. Somebody is fundraising off of making you angry at your neighbor and working against each other to find solutions in this pandemic. And that's why so many folks I speak to are ready not for another politician, but for somebody who's been finding solutions every day. A teacher, a nurse, an essential worker, a small business owner who has to go to work and find ways to bring the people in their community together. And that is why today I'm asking for your support and your prayers and your vote on November 3rd. Because it's time for a teacher in the U.S. Senate. Thank you.
One of the things that I'm most proud of in this campaign is the work we've put in over the years. We started this campaign years ago. I announced in August of 2019, but we've been working for years before that, listening to people, traveling across this state, listening to voters about their needs, because I wouldn't dare ask you for your support without at least having heard what you care about and the needs of your community. We started that years ago. We built a grassroots campaign. We did this the right way. We did it the way that people would expect a campaign to grow. We traveled across this state. We talked to grassroots organizations and individual voters. I am most proud that every single dime we've raised has come from voters like you. Every cent of it. We have not taken one corporate dollar, and we will not. Because we're here because we're fighting for the people. If you want a candidate that's going to fight for your health care, fight for your children's education, fight to eliminate college debt, fight for criminal justice reform and police reform, fight to get money out of politics. And I can do that because I'm not taking money from the people that are influencing it. If you want that candidate, I'm it. My name is Antoine Pierce. I am number 12 on your ballot. Please, I'm asking you to tell everybody about this campaign, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
I'm Mayor Adrian Perkins. I'm a candidate for United States Senate. I'll be number 11 on your ballot. I did not say that in my opening statement, so I just wanted to say number 11 on your ballot. I'm a young man who grew up in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm the grandson of a sharecropper. I was able to go off to West Point, where people told me it's no way you could ever attend an academy like that. I was able to go to Harvard and beat the odds again. I was awarded a Bronze Star in our military, and at the age of 34, I am the mayor of my hometown. I've beat the odds my entire life, and what we're going to hear this year is a Democrat can't win this Senate seat. This isn't about my life, and it's not about me. This is about all of us, and it's about us beating the odds so that we can get what we want and what we deserve, and what we deserve is a stronger Louisiana. And the way that we get there is by us all taking a new road. We've seen what the old road has given us. We've seen what Senator Cassidy is about. We've seen that he does not serve us. He serves his corporate donors and he serves his political party. So let's come together on November 3rd and let's send a strong message to Senator Cassidy and anybody else that we're about electing the strongest leaders possible that's going to go to Washington, D.C. and serve each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thanks to our candidates. And a reminder that this is a primary, so if Senator Cassidy does not receive 50% plus one, there will be a runoff, and likely one of these three gentlemen will be in the runoff with Senator Cassidy. And do we have a commitment from each of you that should you be in the runoff, that you will come here before December 5th for a return engagement? Thank you. Thank you. And hopefully, if that happens, Senator Cassidy will also participate. And as mentioned, he was invited but declined to appear today. But thank you for coming, and I think it's been a good event, and let's reconvene soon. Thank you.